there has been an announcement in terms of SmackDown and its head writing team. We've got confirmation now that Road Dogg has been hired as the co-head writer of SmackDown going forward. Of course, he's been in similar positions before under the Vince era,
Hmm.
but seemed to not be there for very long, if I remember rightly. He wasn't there for a good, well, a very short amount of time he seemed to be
Hmm.
there for. So, yeah, I guess the discussion point on this one is, do we think this can be a good move, or do we think it could be history repeating itself?
I think it's a very different era. I think that the only downside I would say to this is we have discovered a new kind of nepo baby, and it is if you're friends with Triple H, you get an automatic job. Um, like we've discovered, you don't have to be the son of somebody to be a nepo baby. You just have to be friends with them. But we've with Road Dogg, it's a weird one because Road Dogg is a great mind in the wrestling business that is undisputed. Not that
No.
kind of undisputed, but it is undisputed that he is one of the best wrestling minds. You don't end up in one of the best factions. You don't end up in one of the most recognizable tag teams in history. You don't go out and be one of the most recognized single stars either, by not being good at your job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And love him or hate him, although I don't know many people who don't really like him, um, I feel like you can respect what Road Dogg has done in the industry. Now, whether he'll be good or not, it remains to be seen. AJ Styles even tweeted, being like, "You've only seen him under the Vince era. Do not judge him based off that. He had someone meddling with his ideas." And I
Mm-hmm.
very much believe that because we all know the stories about Vince. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong on the time period, but I think it was around the time that you had like the Paul Heyman,
Yeah.
Eric Bischoff sort of random shoe-ins for a few weeks, and then Vince went, "No, I want the power again." Um, and yeah, I think we can't really judge him off of that. I think it'd be really interesting to see what sort of happens and how he sort of goes about it. I think, to be honest with you, I think if I was a comedy wrestler, I would really want to be on SmackDown right now,
Mm-hmm.
because one thing Road Dogg is very good at is the comedy. He did it for his entire career, and while also being a comedic character, while also remaining respectable in the ring, and I think that could be really useful to some people. I possibly could this be part of the reason why R-Truth has moved over to SmackDown? Having those two just come up with wild ideas will be so much fun. But yeah, I think that time will tell, but he is one of the best minds in the business, despite being a slight nepo baby right now. But I think you've got to respect him on that and believe that someone that's been in the business for so long is going to have good ideas. I don't know what you think.
No, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think there's a lot of people who've maybe jumped on it a bit too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been give everything a fair shot in
Mm-hmm.
terms of people taking new positions and maybe moving up the chain, or new people getting in charge of maybe creative in wrestling. I think you have to give them time to see how stories play out, and then if there is stuff that gets highlighted as being his and it's not
Mm-hmm.
particularly great, then obviously that needs to be addressed at some point. And I get the feeling that Triple H isn't just going to keep people around if they're not pulling the weight or not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I as much as people will say, "Oh, it's jobs for the boys" sort of thing, I do think that with his history and with what he can obviously bring to the table, and he did a lot of work at NXT as well. Like
Yeah.
when Triple H was there, so Triple H has seen him right in front of him in the flesh, working with these guys and helping develop characters and stories or whatever comes along, and he's been able to do it, obviously, to the level that Triple H wants him to do. So
Yeah.
he's put him in. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see obviously where SmackDown goes, because again, he is co-head writer here. He's not just a writer. He is
Yeah.
he is a big part of the puzzle now. So if SmackDown takes a turn or gets a bit of a refresh or gets a bit of a boost, then maybe we can align that with the decision to bring Road Dogg in, but only time will tell. So yeah, my view on it is not yes, this is a great move, and not no,
Yeah.
it's not a great move. It's a wait and see, like it is with most things in wrestling.
Yeah, I think that actually with your reviews of SmackDown recently could possibly be part of the reason. Not saying you specifically, obviously, Triple H is not listening to this podcast, but
You never know.
you never know. You never know. But I think that what you've been saying in the past few weeks is that SmackDown has not been good enough in comparison to the other shows that have been around, and that SmackDown hasn't really lived up to it and has often felt like it's dragged at moments. And let's be honest, SmackDown has not been that show. It's,
Yeah.
For a very long time, from the pandemic onwards, probably until the past maybe year, SmackDown has been the superior show.
Mm-hmm.
It factually has. Everyone enjoyed SmackDown, loathed Raw. That is what it's been like for so long up until the past year. And then SmackDown's just become meh. And maybe this is a way of going, okay, it's not living up to the hype. Let's refresh it a little bit. Let's give it some fresh ideas. Let's give it someone new at the top of the writing tree, and we'll, hopefully change the fortunes around and put SmackDown back on the map and back at its best.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the hope, isn't it? Is that even if it doesn't become the best thing since sliced bread, it takes a few steps forward and gets that sharpness back. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Fingers crossed it's a good move for SmackDown and for creative, really. Yeah. So with that being said, we'll leave that there for the news stories and head into the weekly roundup.